are we doing? Woo! I think a lot better than the weeks previous. This is really good. This is really good. Are you ready to be your host for the Meltdown?
Woo!
Fucking Bartlett. Oh, hi, hello, hi, hello. Welcome. Hello, Internet. How are you? Hi, I'm Morris Bartlett, and this is the Meltdown. You've come to us because you know, who do we have? Yeah, this is mostly returning audience. So you guys know that you're here to assuage your mental illness, to find some steady guidance in this life, here to join our cult. So thank you. Welcome to the show. I, of course, am the king of this tiny little box right here. My name is Morris Bartlett. You can catch me outside of closed middle schools trying to orchestrate fights. I am ready to fall off the wagon at any time. I am a huge bundle of nerves. So I will be leading this fucking parade. I am, of course, joined by several fantastic friends, some of whom even have talent. Especially this one here does. You've met him briefly already. Guys, did you know about Ty Bizenalt?
Whoa!
Ty, of course, is the leader of the Meltdown band. You can't see them, but there's a 40-piece brass section just to his left. And
there's not.
He is also my partner in crime. Those crimes include trying to kick pigeons, but we can't. They're fast.
It's so fast.
Anyways, hi.
Hi.
How have you been, Ty?
I'm good. Other than those goddamn pigeons.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Well, you know, because we both live together. We've done not a whole lot. We've been watching a lot of fights.
That's true.
The UFC has had 3 fights in the last week.
I find I kind of like the no audience thing.
It's been like, there's no audience, so it's really, really weird. There's been some like really questionable stoppages. Like it's gone on like too long. It's been a little bit much to watch.
For everybody in the chat who is not an overly masculine weirdo who needs to go watch people beat the shit out of each other on a regular basis. There have been a couple of fights that have gone on weirdly too long, where like somebody's
it was uncomfortable.
getting the shit kicked out of them, and refs should have stopped that shit.
Yeah.
And it feels weird to be like show up to a fight screaming for blood and be like, no, there's too much blood.
It does feel weird to bitch about it, especially when the guy who's got their shit kicked out of him, his nickname was the Lionheart, which is like, you're basically just saying the guy gets the shit kicked out of him.
That's true.
So yeah, he's
Should have done the
terrible.
Care Bear stare.
Showing up.
That's yeah.
Yeah, he's the same powers as the Care Bear. Like it's like,
That's fantastic.
This is not a good situation. But other than that, we've been.
Just sounds like a Braveheart weeb, and we don't have any tolerance for those.
I suppose so.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing.
Those are a couple of our guests. I'm gonna let you in the chat figure out who it is. I know that you can see and you can read, but I'm gonna introduce you a little more formally later. Also, listen, I have needed her company all week, and you guys are gonna be overjoyed to see her. We are joined as always by our quarantine third mic. She's a delight. She's a queen. She will probably end up floating in a tank somewhere with her brain hooked up to wires, and in a Lawnmower Man way, she's going to be the AI that runs our civilization in the future, probably. She started as human, but as she is becoming more than that, it's my pleasure to have her. Ladies and gentlemen, help me please welcome Jessica Peugeot. Hi, Jessica. Welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Hello, Morris. It's been weird not having anything to do with my Wednesday evening. It's happened exactly once, and I'm not complaining about the once a week format, but I was just sitting by myself exactly here at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, just breathing heavily the entire time. Just trying to psychically commune with you and Ty. Just.
I was
So
thinking about you as well.
if you felt me calling from the darkness, that's not an illusion, and it wasn't just you missing me. It was the fact that we are now on the same wavelength, you and I. We're connected.
What did I tell you? She's going to be running this shit. We all are going to be part of the hive mind that is Jessica. That's the future of humanity.
The singularity has a speech impediment and a mild allergy to shellfish.
So happy to have you here.
Speaking of organizing fights outside of middle schools, something that happened shortly before everything locked down was there was an incident found out by the RCMP in Grand Prairie, Alberta, my hometown.
Woo!
A group of young men were organizing teenage boys into an underground fight club and betting on them.
Oh,
Which I heard about because every one of you motherfuckers sent me the article. They're like, look, it's you. And I'm like, what do you want from me? It's Grand Prairie. I'm just amazed anyone reported it. I thought that was just one of their extracurriculars.
I mean,
you sign up underneath jiu-jitsu and soccer.
blood sport.
Just a normal extracurricular for young growing boys.
Says this like it didn't. Those things don't spontaneously erupt between young growing teenage boys, anyways.
Yeah, they were just giving a little bit of structure.
Right. Yeah.
I dressed up for today.
Oh, yeah, you look lovely.
I like to wear as many clothing as possible when people are going to see me because it makes me feel safe. If we are truly intimate, you have seen my clavicle.
I've actually seen her clavicle.
You see, that's friendship.
Yeah.
Maybe someday you'll see a wrist.
Damn.
Don't tempt me.
I'll unbutton one of these one day, and you'll just find yourself.
Oh, hey, I'm getting the vapors. Oh my God, where is there a fainting couch when you need one?
Things are getting spicy.
But I think we talked about this a little while ago when I was trying to talk about my dad, but we somehow got interrupted by a discussion about nude beaches. But have you ever noticed that the people most likely to invite you to a nude beach are almost always the sort of people you're least comfortable hanging out with fully clothed? Sounds like a fun time there, Dan, but I feel weird talking to you when I can't see your nutsack. And I mean, I've never been to a nude beach. I'm not even okay with the amount of skin required by a regular beach. I want a third option, like a business formal beach where we all where nobody makes eye contact and we all wear suits.
You want an 1800s throwback beach. Yeah, I've seen that photo.
I want us all to wear woolen undergarments and with parasols.
The Society for Creative Anachronism goes to the ocean.
Like, I kind of want to get a burkini. And like, in case you don't know, is the strange and illicit love child of a burqa and a bikini. It's basically an aerodynamic tent you can swim in. Honestly, I'd wear a straight up burqa if I thought I could pull off the look. I see a traditional Muslim woman walking down the street with maybe 2 eyes and a saucy half brow on display, and I am jealous. I don't want people looking at my face. I'm embarrassed to be alive, never mind perceived. Not that I'm a huge fan of women's clothing in general. The fabric is sheer, the shoes are impractical, and the pockets are bullshit. And I don't know if you can tell, but when it comes to underwear, I tend to go for flattening rather than flattering. This won't make sense to most of the men here, unless each and every one of you is a closet drag queen. But my bra size is a 40B, which means I've got a chest like a draft horse and no tits. My sister actually wears a 42A, so technically, I am the busty sister. But my biggest problem is actually that I'm slightly larger than the largest size available at regular stores, but significantly smaller than the smallest size available at plus-size stores. Meaning that I am simultaneously too fat and not quite fat enough.
Sounds like we have a decision to make.
So if I ever want to get my clothes off the rack, either I need to spend approximately 5,000 hours at the gym per week, or I need to switch to drinking half and half.
Oh.
But I've never really understood dieting. Like, think about it. Either I could lose 20 pounds and be slightly more attractive to 80% of the population, or I could gain 40 pounds and be smoking hot to 2%. Take my advice. Eat until you are somebody's fetish.
Whoa. God damn.
Dude, you got fucking shirt.
I'm gonna be honest. I want to make it a merch. I might turn it into Meltdown merch. They give you a kickback to make money. Oh, that's delightful.
And I'm not a vegan, but recently I've been trying out a bunch of different vegan milks, like almond milk, which is made out of almonds, and cashew milk, which is made out of cashews, and organic milk, which is made out of organs. And vegans are one of those groups of people you're just allowed to hate with no explanation, like hipsters and neo-Nazis. Despite the fact that there's nothing inherently objectionable about eating tofu, or drinking craft beer, or marching in lockstep with 100 of your pastiest friends. And there are different types of veganism, like raw veganism, where you don't cook your food, and paleo veganism, where you eat like your ancient ancestors and die of malnutrition at the age of 23, and freeganism, which is just dumpster diving, but rich white people are doing it, so it's cool now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Sometimes I can't tell when she's done.
I'm never quite done.
Okay, great.
Is that a threat or a promise?
A little bit of both.
Jessica. Also, I realized we forgot to tell the audience. We have a couple bits of news. Regulars in the audience, you might already know this. We're down to once a week. The world is reopening, and we have to get some shit accomplished. So we're down to doing this once a week. But listen, just like church, you come here on Sundays, we'll make your life better, okay? Also, things have been going well for the Meltdown. Not only are we on the most successful channel that is run out of Tanner's basement.
That's like 80 shows, dude. That's pretty good.
Okay, actually,
The
I
man
will
is
say,
busy.
Tanner has, like, this channel has, like, a bunch of shows now, and I've made art for, like, there's Comedy Snacks, and I heard there's Northern Roast coming up, and I think,
Tanner, are we forgetting anything?
and Andrew Albert wants to do one.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much covered it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, listen, considering this is all, considering this all got put together basically in your hands by banging two rocks together and nothing else, fantastic. Congratulations, Tanner.
Aw, thank you.
Also, I've been reached out to by a Fancy Pants platform. If you want a private show, we're doing that now. Do I have the link handy for you? No. Am I professional? Apparently not. But that's happening. Pay attention to the Facebook for info on that if you give a fuck. But honestly, I'm gonna. It's a different. I'll talk to you after. Also, because the world's reopening, a nice local venue has gotten a hold of us and asked if we want to use their space to do the show in, and we will be graciously accepting. So, starting next week, unless there's some sort of disaster, we're going to be in Havana. We're residents of Havana now. Yeah, Cuba, not the place.
Yeah, we're going to Cuba.
I don't know.
We're flying to Cuba once a week.
Yes, exactly. I don't know when they'll be allowing audience in, but we'll at least see you on the internet. So all these good newses. I don't know. Is that all the news? Is that
That's all the news.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
the motorcycle guy was distracting.
let's do this. Sometimes I get the joy. It is one of my favorite things to do in comedy. I get to help nourish a new artist. I get to bring on somebody for their very first time on a comedy stage. We made We made sure that she knew that if she bombed, she would be summarily murdered and dumped in the ocean. So she's she's appropriately nervous. But I love these. They're a wonderful sweetheart, and I am looking forward to seeing what they're gonna do. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the show, Ash Who.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Thank you for that lovely intro. I'd like to say that I think that I was made for this show because death by drowning is probably in my will as a marine biologist wannabe. So thank you for recognizing that, Morris. This was great.
Yeah.
And as someone new to the show, I think that I want to take this time to kind of air any grievances / introduce myself so that I come into the scene and you get an idea of who I am and you don't get surprised by the kind of person I could be. So I think that we live in this very odd time of social progress, the Me Too movement, recognition of discrimination and prejudice, trying to actively work against that and having massive social movements to respond to it, right? And I think en masse, this is valuable insofar as we're asking ourselves how we ourselves can be discriminatory, right? How we can be racist, how we can be sexist. Those kinds of things are important to ask. And I want to own up to this insofar as I've done it and come to terms with it so that you guys are aware of this. So I have a confession to make. I've never seen frat boys and dude bros as human beings. Until very recently. And you see, I didn't even think I had this prejudice to begin with. I just never really thought about it because they were just, like the vermin of junior high, right? So with their like snapbacks, when you went to the mall with your mom and they'd be hiding in the local lids store and they'd be spending like $60 on it. And you'd see them on Monday wearing that hat as if it was something to like be proud of with their frosted tips. And you just kind of like nowadays think of Smash Mouth and Guy Fieri and be like, wow, that was like valid at some point. And now we're laughing about it. Okay. But frat boy and dude culture has like definitely moved into a new direction. So I guess how I came to terms with this. So I'll set the stage for the story. So I was at the University of Alberta doing my 4th year in guess what degree? Gender studies, maybe? That's the one I get a lot. My MRS, no. I was a debate vegan activist in uni. So someone saying meth, I think my teeth aren't that bad. So like, chill. Wow, I did not think I'd get this roasted right away.
The chat has your number, Ash.
Wow.
And a PhD in smack.
Ooh, PhD in smack indeed. Okay, well, no, environmental studies, but like, that's not obvious, I suppose. And in your 4th year, you have like some extra credits accumulated to take a fun course. And some people want to allocate that to like having fun for the first time in university and just chilling out and boosting their GPA with the hopes that they can like maybe get into a master's program. So like, what would you spend it on? Like maybe a computer science course and learn some video game development, or like music, something chill, something fun, maybe do a new language, or like basket weaving because every sitcom tells us that's a degree somebody does, but it's not. So I decided for my extra credit to do a intro to macroeconomics course. Yeah, it was, thank you, Jessica, for supporting me. Clowning 101, awesome, congratulations, Austrian, in the chat. So I remember this class really, really vividly because it was taught by Dr. Wong, who was like this very gangly, vibrant Chinese man who would like yell at you about coin minting in a windowless room for 5 hours a week. So that's seared at the front of my brain for as long as I can remember. And he like did that thing that profs do where they ask, why you're there. And it's like a 200 person room. A lot of these are like first years. They're terrified uni students who are paying hundreds of dollars to be left alone and get grades so they can move on with their life. But like being a 4th year and being the person in the front row, I put up my hand and I was like, I'm 21 years old. And I feel like I should know what the Federal Bank of Canada does. And the silence continued until it was broken by my professor laughing at me for a good 3 minutes straight. And I guess that got the attention to the rest of my class. because the next day I had these like two boys sit beside me in the very front row, which was like 2 proximate meters from this very attentive, very angry Chinese man whose eyes would light up when he was explaining like the basket of goods, which is not a response any macroeconomic concept should ever elicit, ever. But yeah, so these guys like sat beside me, and I'll be honest, like I don't remember their names. It could have been either like Devin, Tyler, Eric, or Jake, and I'm not sure. But there were 2 of them, and they were white boys, and they were like the characteristic like frat boy / dude bro kind of thing, right? And I kind of like asked them why they were here and what they were doing, and one of them said math, and I remember this guy pretty well because he would say things like, you know, oof dagger in response to currency devaluation, which like, I guess that'll have a hit on your economy. Like,
Honestly,
sure, oof dagger, like crime will go up, people will stab each other. Okay. Or that he was jonesing for some more study time, which like, that's a juxtaposition of personalities I never expected. That's not language that people use. And then the second one, his degree was figuring it out, bro, which I understood to be open studies. Retrospect, I think he was making a very important commentary on the ways and a wider critique of how university degrees don't actually prepare you for the labor market and don't actually direct you or teach you anything. Or maybe it was a deeper understanding about how like you're just going through life and you're the accumulation of all of these experiences, and that like a degree is not who you are and cannot define you, especially because you don't know what it'll look like in a few years. But like, this is hindsight 2020. At the time, I'm just like, yeah, this moron's in varsity sports and he's getting high, and his eyes red on Monday did not betray that truth. So whatever, cool dude. Could have been a Jake, could have been a Devin, could have been a Drew, who's to say. So I continued to like sit there in the front row with these guys, and they were pretty cool, you know, but they very much were like reminiscent of the kinds of boys in junior high that would like grab a Red Bull or Monster drink like after every period, you know, like you'd show up to class and they'd have a new one with a different flavor just so you knew it wasn't the same one, as if they were like stockpiling it in their locker, and you would never find out because it was just musked over with Axe spray and you couldn't breathe anytime you tried to find this stockpile. Like that was the social credit of junior high. These are the kind of people we're talking about. You know, there's a lot more complexity now that I'm seeing it for the first time in my life like this. But anyway, like one day in class, and this is very distinctly where this transformation occurred for me, where I came face to face with my prejudice about these people being useless, pot smoking university rapists and frats, was that, yeah, we were having a class, and like one open studies bro, because I don't remember his name, had his like legs spread out, and his like virulent masculinity needed to become a fire hazard because it was so in the aisle where we were in the front row, so only Dr. Wong would die. But like, come on, Dr. Wong's cool. Please don't hurt him. He's so precious. He literally wrote the Canadian macroeconomics intro textbook. Like, he's just so sweet. And so like, he's super tired. It's a Monday. His eyes are red. He was telling me about some frat party he had gone to on the weekend. You know, he was chirping some chicks. I don't know if that meant if he was like insulting them or flirting with them. He also referenced cheesing, but like, I don't know what that means. I don't think he was a culinary expert, given that he would eat instant ramen in class, uncooked. Again, like, what a power move. In retrospect, I wish I had the courage to do what this man did. And he just kind of like leans over, and Mr. Wong is like screaming at us just the whole lecture, less than 2 physical proximate meters at this like 300-person lecture hall. And open studies bro like nudges me, and he's like, dude. And I'm trying to like pay attention, and I don't want to like get Dr. Wong's negative attention, because like, ooh, I have a crush on this prof. I really want him to like me, if that wasn't obvious this whole time. And I look over at open studies bro's laptop, and without the sound on, YouTube, full screen, not even notes in the corner, is a Pingu compilation. And if you don't know what Pingu is, it's a French claymation series of a child penguin undergoing these like stories of like relationships and tribulations that are supposed to kind of teach like a young kid how to behave. They're really, really wholesome, So what did I learn from this whole experience? What did this moment accumulate in? Because I think that this was one of those moments that you'll never forget, like a trigger moment. Like when we talk about the ways in which we're faced with this information, we're talking about things like 9/11. It fundamentally changes the way you see the political landscape and the fact people can do such evil. And in this case, this trigger moment for me was this realization. But like what I learned from this ultimately was that like Pingu's a good fucking show. And even to this day, like despite the fact the creator is dead, rest in peace, it teaches you this valuable moral code, right? I like show this to my students today, even though they're like Gen Z and the creator's dead. But it teaches you this valuable moral code. And I kind of sat there thinking to myself that like, this was a moment of sharing. And this boy, this dude bro, grew up with Pingu. He like learned the same moral values. He like watched this show and resonated with a clay penguin turning its beak into a horn and screeching at the top of its lungs at a seal in an interracial friendship about how to share fish. And like this was like beautiful to me, because in this epiphany, in this moment where I realized the like vulnerability and the humanity of this man in this moment in an intellectual academic space while manspreading 2 meters from the prof in an incredibly disrespectful but powerful human connecting act in a class that neither of us wanted to be in, was that he was a human being and that I had never granted him that decency. So in order to articulate this to him in not too many words, I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Newt, Newt." And the most beautiful part of this experience was when he, without looking back, seemingly understanding the transformation that took place, just softly said, "Newt, Newt, dude." And that was that. That was beautiful. That was understanding. That was coming together.
Ash has a lot of strong opinions about types of people.
I wanted to put my cards on the table, Laura.
I remember Pingu, but like I remember episode I remember is when he was like pissing on everything. I just remember this claymation pee everywhere.
It was a story about toilet training. You were once a peeing all over the place 2-year-old, were you not?
I'm peeing everywhere now. I'm 33.
So that was actually one of 2 Pingu episodes that were banned. The other one was an episode with a walrus that was super creepy.
Wet bandits.
Oh. Listen, the French will make extremely fucked up children's stuff. The French don't seem to think kids are kids.
No, they drink wine.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure the French government provides nannies.
French kids seem like just small adults. Am I wrong?
They are. They dress all fancy.
And then their cartoons have peeing in them.
Always
And
with the pee.
They already have like serious lung problems and smokers hacked by high school. It's why they're not competitive internationally in sports.
They seem to think they're ready for relationships immediately. For instance, did you know the current president of France is married to a woman who was his middle school teacher? That's how they met.
His middle school drama teacher.
Drama.
Yeah.
So good.
Also, imagine yourself as like a 24-year-old drama teacher at a middle school. You're like a woman with a career and her shit kind of together, and like probably not a car because I don't think the French have cars, but like at least a baguette, and then
A bike and a baguette.
Yeah, a bike and a baguette and a floppy hat.
Very floppy hat.
And you see an 8th grade boy and you want a slice?
Yeah, you're like, I must pick up a piece of that baguette over there.
How slim are the pickings that's where they'll go? That's atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, but no one said shit about it, did they?
No, apparently
now he's
the president. Did she smell greatness on him? Suspect.
Like, I don't think this was a scarcity thing. I think it's just like pedophilia, but like, okay, we can justify this. That's cool. Let's have a good time.
Yes, that's the implication. Yeah, we were drawing attention to the pedophilia.
This may be a bit of a non
listen,
sequitur,
let's
but Caillou
have,
can go fuck himself.
Here.
let's have a
Fuck you,
let's
Caillou.
have an act. Your next performer, he's a delight. He's also a fucking crusher of a comedian. This is, I think, his first show since quarantine started. He's looking healthy. He's looking thin. He looks like he needs a haircut, so I'm not mad at him. He's fantastically hilarious. You're gonna love him. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the show, the one and only Steve Letts.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having me on the Meltdown today. I hope everybody is isolating well. This is my first show since quarantine started, and you're right, I do need a haircut really fucking bad.
We all do.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. You guys are well, though?
Yeah, things are going quite well. We're getting a lot done. I have picked up a bunch of skills off of YouTube. I've learned 8 new skills, and I'm not going to stick with any of them, probably.
What are the most interesting of them?
I started graffitiing.
Okay.
I actually have decent at that.
Pretty good at it.
I recently started to learn to play the piano. I'm actually good at Photoshop now. I can edit a movie. Yeah, those things.
Those are all pretty useful.
Those.
I haven't been doing much. I've been lazing around at home. It's been an interesting time, like just reconnecting with people. I think one of the unfortunate side effects of isolation is that it's forced my family to pretend we want to talk to each other all the time. It's a fucking bummer because we were not like that at all before. We barely even texted each other. We sent each other birthday cards in the mail. We're so fucking passive aggressive.
Wow.
And so, but my family decided it would be a good idea to do like a Zoom conference for Easter dinner, which was obviously fucking insane. I don't know anyone who thought that was a good idea, but nobody wanted to admit that we wanted to count this as a blessing and just take a freebie year and go have takeout at our respective homes.
Right. Yeah, Easter dinners
So
are
we-
traditionally not great in the first place.
No, so then we did it by Zoom from a bunch of different households. So it was basically like all of the fucking stop and go awkwardness of a teleconference mixed with the forced merriment of a family gathering.
And you couldn't even
Awful.
sneak in with your cousin to smoke a joint.
Right? And like, I'm grateful that I have a family to complain about, but if I had known that this so-called Zoom dinner was just going to be 40 minutes of my aunties comparing cooking times, I would have fucking skipped it. So what else? I decided to start fucking with self-help books since I've been in isolation.
Okay.
Because I'm 36 years old, and so I just kind of figured, like, I don't know. I'm like, if my midlife crisis is self-care, then so be it. That's not so bad. Like when my parents had midlife crises, my dad took up like cocaine and sports cars, and my mom like got boozy and dated a bunch of dudes named Ron, I guess. So it's true, the kids don't party like they used to at all. Mine's all fucking audiobooks and meditation and shit.
Kind of how mine's That's all right.
One self-help book that one of the first ones that I checked out was The 5 Love Languages, just because I had heard a lot of people talk about this. I'd heard about it in, people posting about it online. And this book is insane. I don't know if you've read any of it, but it's thinly veiled Christian fucking propaganda. It's nuts. There's this extended example.
A long argument about it.
There's this extended example in the book about this woman whose husband is like outwardly hostile towards her. They've been miserable for years, and all of her friends tell her she needs to get the fuck out of there, but she's like deeply religious and she wants to work it out. And so the author counsels her to just fuck her husband more, which is not on its own bad advice
Okay.
by any means. But she tells him basically that she does fuck him sometimes and he's still mean to her. He doesn't treat her any nicer. So this guy is like, what you need to do is fuck your husband consistently for like 6 or so months. And then you can gradually start asking him to do stuff for you. And like, which is just nuts. And he basically says if she has trouble getting on board with taking repeated slammings from a hostile dick that belongs to someone who said they were going to honor and cherish her and then treated her like a fuckable nuisance, she should just remember Jesus' sermon about loving his enemies. So that's in the book. I had no idea that so many self-help books are actually just Christian propaganda dressed up as female empowerment. That's a fucking good scam. That's smart. I had no idea. Also, that this 5 love languages. Sorry, what were you saying?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was saying just how Scientology started.
Totally. Like fucking science fiction. You also know that like the 5 love languages is bullshit because none of them is feeding.
That's
Not a
good
single
point.
one of them. Like if I think about it, there should be 4 love languages. There's talking, sex, quiet time, and feeding.
Oh, wow.
Those are the real 4 love languages. And it's not even necessarily a romantic thing. Like if you feed someone, that should absolutely be at the top of the list. I once worked at a bank on Commercial Drive. And this one day, I got chewed out by 3 middle-aged Indo-Canadian women who realized their very old mother had been getting charged unnecessary service charges for years. So they had right to be pissed off. But obviously, I don't make the goddamn service charges at this bank. So I got chewed out by these 3 chicks for a solid 8 minutes. And my pussy-ass spineless manager did nothing. So the oldest woman that I worked with, her name was Mabel. She was this real hardline Chinese lady. It's like a Chinese woman, but she's Hong Kong Chinese, so incredibly racist towards mainland Chinese. She hated MLA Jenny Kwan. Very, very strange. Anyways, she saw that I had been getting chewed out by these ladies and that our fucking jellyfish manager didn't do anything about it. So when she came back from her lunch break, she bought me a roast chicken. She just, like, we weren't even friends at work. She just walked into the lunchroom with a roast chicken and said, Steve, I know you had a rough morning and I want you to have this.
Wow.
What?
And like, that's love language right there. Because straight up, we haven't talked in years. She ended up retired and I moved work. But I would kill most of your moms to protect her, and I mean that.
See, okay, this is hilarious, but also I'm fully on board. I think he's right, and he should write a book.
Yeah.
Maybe I will. Save that. This is being recorded somewhere, right? I wrote it down.
Yeah.
It's fine.
My love language is killing your mother to protect Mabel.
That's absolutely. I hope she's okay. She was very old. She had the most beautiful afro. And oh my God, her roots would be so long right now. Poor Mabel. No, she's a bottle dye kind of lady. She's doing fine. She doesn't pay for fucking salon dye. Mabel's doing okay. Anyways, one thing that I've been trying really hard not to do during isolation is nag my husband. Just be a nag in general. That's something that I'm really worried about, is just becoming endlessly negative. I have a really, really negative mother. The woman is an F5 tornado of dark thoughts. And she hates it when I lament that I'm becoming her, even though she knows she's negative. She also knows my father, who happens to be an immunocompromised drug addict with no top teeth.
Oh.
So if I ever say, oh no, I'm becoming my other, she's like, you can do a lot fucking worse than your mother, buddy. You could be turning into cracky Joe McHepatitis like your old man, but heaven forbid you should be a downer like old Ma. She's like, you know what, you'd be a lot less chipper too if you survived marrying a crackhead and then raising an ungrateful little homo. She's
Wow. Yeah. Honestly, I would kill your mother to protect Mabel at this point.
Yeah, I think we just did.
My mom would fuck you up. My mom's crazy. She's wily. She'll get you.
I feel like we have similar mothers. Holy shit! That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about my husband during isolation. For example, I had no idea how much pooping he had been handling at the office. I also didn't know I married the type of man who would take a shit during a conference call, but that's a thing that happened that I cannot unknow. He's actually, and my husband is an occupational therapist at St. Paul's Hospital, but because he's currently working on an IT project for them, he got sent home to work remotely. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like really happy about it for his safety and his health. But then after like 3 days of sharing a bathroom with the Davie Street steam clock over here, I was like, don't you think they miss you at the hospital, babe? You're a big positive force. You should probably be there on the front lines, no? I was like, working from home is nice and all, but wouldn't you like a round of applause at 7 p.m. every day?
Also, what I'm getting from this is that you almost sent him to his certain death over this.
He's very resilient. It's fine. We're doing fine.
I had to protect Mabel.
If he was at St. Paul's Hospital, I'd go.
All right, so
I do think that like isolation has been hard on a lot of gay men who are single, because without the ability to hook up, the loneliness can, really build and be difficult for a lot of people. It's been nice for me to be isolating with my husband. I have someone there. COVID hasn't necessarily lessened the amount of sex that I'm having, but it has drastically increased the percentage of my sexual encounters that involve my husband. which has been great. I mean, it's sort of, COVID has kind of corralled us back into monogamy temporarily, which has been nice in its own way. It's kind of like revisiting an old video game. You know, it's like, it's not as exciting as the first time you played it, but it's nice to know that you remember all of the shortcuts and you deserve to hold the high score. I do miss getting out there a little bit. Open relationships are perfect for me because I'm a sweetheart at heart, you know, and so I enjoy the safety and the support that I get from my marriage. But at the end of the day, I'm also a hot-blooded man, and occasionally I get a kick out of getting rejected by strangers online. I thought being in an open relationship would be like when I had a full-time day job, but then I waited tables on weekends, like a fun little side hustle, because those were great years, because I was mouthy with my tables. I didn't give a shit. I had a day job. I had a safety net, and I made a better tip average because of it.
Yeah.
An open relationship is less like having a fun weekend hustle. It's more like sweating through a series of training shifts for a job you don't really want. But you keep applying anyway because your ego likes to know that you could still find work if you do get laid off. And then you go home and you get yelled at for forgetting to buy toilet paper. We're just like straight people, really. We're just like monogamous. Like the same thing. And that's what I've got.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Steve Letts.
Thank you for having me.
I've done mostly open relationships, and I gotta tell you, they're mostly better than they are worse.
I'm not gonna agree with you on that one.
No, can't do it.
No, I don't know what it is.
Fair enough.
I feel like
It's clearly not
some other dude's dick.
Yeah, all right.
Different
It's clearly not
strokes for different
for sure.
folks is what I always
Definitely
say.
Totally.
Not everybody's suited for it. Also, I have seen this mistake. I have seen couples try to take a closed relationship and make it an open relationship. And in my experience, that is no, just break up now.
I've seen a lot of people break up over that for sure.
Yeah.
It's often a Hail Mary at the end of an already dysfunctional
Totally.
relationship.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At least it's a step up from an emergency baby.
It's got to start open, or like it can't change in the middle. You can't do it.
No, if you're like, you know what might make me miss you is someone else's dick. No, your relationship is doomed. It's not working.
No, right?
It's not how that goes.
No, it doesn't. No. I don't know. But on the other hand, I probably had good luck with it because I'm an outdoor cat and I only technically want to be in a relationship at any time. You know, I just want a box checked and somebody who won't get mad at me if I text them and not a lot of responsibilities. So I don't know. It's fine.
You know what you like?
I guess. I'm thinking of changing it. Can't advance on that. Listen, do you think that's a show? Pretty good. I think we had a decent little show there, right? Yeah, it was nice. Cool. Hey guys, everybody out there in TV land, it's spring. Everything's starting to reopen. We're having, it's like a start new things time. So start new things. Come back next week with a new thing started. Don't tell me about it because I don't care. But I've been Morris Bartlett. This has been The Meltdown. Have a great time. Thank you. Good night.